When it comes to a theme park visit, probably the last thing you think about is the parking lot. But folks, it's time to rewire your brain because in fact, the parking lot is one of the most important parts of the theme park experience. And trust me when I say, every theme park from Disney to Six Flags puts a considerable amount of effort into getting their parking lot experience right. Why? Well, folks, when you go to a theme park, what's the very first thing that you do? You park your car. It is the introduction to the theme park experience. It is the introduction to the day ahead. It is the trend setter for how the day is going to go. So it's imperative for these theme parks to really set the standard and set the stage going forward for the rest of your day so that way you have a positive experience at the park. The last thing they need is for the parking lot experience to go awry in a negative way and start your day off sour, or to just be a boring and mundane or tedious task that ultimately leaves you not really having that great mood heading into the park. And when it comes to getting that parking lot experience right, no one has done it better than Universal Orlando. You see, folks, when it comes to building a parking lot or parking structure, the name of the game is functionality and efficiency. You have to make the parking process as easy, as simple, and as fast as possible. You cannot be giving your guests a headache before they've even entered your theme park. That is not a good way to start their day. So you need to make this process as simple as possible. And I mean, Universal's original parking lot back in 1990, when they only had Universal Studios Florida, it was a flat parking lot. Let me tell you, this parking lot absolutely met the functionality standard. It was about as plain as it gets, but bottom line is that it got the job done. However, in 1999, when Universal had to expand their parking lot offerings because, well, they needed more spaces to accommodate their second theme park, Islands of Adventure, they had grander ambitions with their parking lot because they knew that it was a great opportunity to really set the stage and set the mood for their guests and make a grand introduction for them, even if it was in a really subtle way. They didn't want to just be a super efficient parking operation. They also want to add something to the themed experience, even if it was tiny and relatively unnoticeable. And for as much as I'm going to praise Universal's parking operations here, the fact of the matter is, folks, this idea of doing something special with your parking situation was not Universal's idea. They got it from, of course, Big Brother Disney, right? Disney, through the means of their transportation systems, were able to set the stage and add an introduction to the parking experience. They didn't necessarily do anything with the parking lot structures themselves. They're all pretty basic, bare bones, flat parking lots. But it's the means of transportation, the monorail, the trams, the ferries, that adds something special to parking at Disney and really helps to get people into the mood and start to feel that classic signature Disney magic before they've even entered into the parks. So Universal was kind of setting themselves up for a grand challenge to be able to sort of replicate that experience that Disney was able to pull off via their transportation systems through just the parking lot itself. A challenging prospect, absolutely. And I know I probably sound like a madman right now because I'm hyping up what appears to be a standard looking parking garage and saying that's adding something meaningful to your theme park experience, which might even be crazy even if you have visited Universal Orlando and parked in this parking garage. You may be looking at me like I got 10 heads right now too, because you probably never even noticed the subtle details that Universal has put into this parking garage that, whether consciously or subconsciously, have actually been impacting your theme park experience and visits to Universal Orlando. And for as admirable of a goal as that was, ultimately Universal had to still execute first and foremost on the functionality and efficiency of the experience. They still had to make sure that even with all of these more spaces, even with all of these more people parking at the resort, that they could still park efficiently and quickly and without any trouble or hassle. And in fact, the first step in that was creating something, quite frankly, that had unbelievable capacity. Because here's the thing, folks. This parking garage had to be so big, so colossal, so massive that it actually accommodates over 19,000 spaces, meaning that Believe it or not, folks, it is the largest parking garage in the United States. So not only is it doing something special from a themed entertainment perspective, but it also happens to be a massive architectural and mechanical marvel here built right next to a theme park. How about that? And as cool as it is to say that you've stepped foot inside of an engineering icon, that's not really what makes this parking garage special. In fact, what makes it special all starts with these little beauties. These 6 icons are the core part of the parking garage experience. Of course, like most theme park parking lots, they are going to have these icons spread out throughout the area to make sure you remember where you parked. It's that simple. And of course, these icons also do serve that purpose. I mean, after all, they're not only identifiable via color, but they're also identifiable via symbol. But these 6 icons, King Kong, Jaws, Jurassic Park, Spider-Man, E.T., and Cat in the Hat, folks, let me tell you, they are not just symbols to help you remember where you parked. They actually mean a whole lot more than that. As in each of these sections, you will hear music and sound effects that go alongside the icon for which section you parked in. So for instance, for King Kong, you would hear the sounds of King Kong roaring at the top of his lungs and the sounds of the jungle. In the Jaws and E.T. sections, you would hear the iconic John Williams scores associated with those 2 films. And then in the Spider-Man section, you would hear the iconic instrumental theme of Spider-Man himself. And then finally, for Cat in the Hat, you arguably hear the most tied-in piece of music you could possibly imagine, as you get to hear the soundtrack, the score from the Cat in the Hat ride and the music from the Seuss Landing section of Islands of Adventure. So, I mean, that is perfectly leading into the types of experiences you are going to have in this theme park. And they're going to set the stage, they're going to set the mood, and they're going to get the goosebumps going on your arm because you know where you are. When you hear those famous soundtracks, those famous pieces of music and sound effects, you know where you are and what experience you're setting yourself up for. This whole experience leading up to this, it just felt like parking at any normal place. But as soon as you hear that music, as soon as you see those symbols, all of a sudden something clicks. And on top of these pieces of musical notation, sort of, really adding to the experience and really, introducing you to the world of Universal, what they also do is they act as another form of practicality, because they help you remember where you parked. If you remember what it sounded like where you parked and the sounds and the music that were being made in the area where you parked, well, hey, that's just another way to remember where you parked. Yeah, maybe it's not the most realistic that someone's going to use that to figure out where they parked, but it doesn't hurt either. But speaking of practicality, this parking garage also carries with it a number of other practical features that just simply make your life easier. And it really all starts from, of course, the moving walkway, the famous part of Universal's parking garage that, again, sets the stage perfectly for a day at Universal and is a perfect way to end off the day at Universal. Of course, if you do decide to, walk on the moving walkway, you actually gain about 1.5 miles per hour extra speed from walking on these. So that's just a useful thing, right, to get you to security and get you into CityWalk faster. But even if you choose not to walk and save your energy for the park itself, or, just relax after a long day of walking in the park, well, it still is a practical way and a practical means of getting you back to your car or into CityWalk, either way. And it actually is through this and the escalators that Universal has actually, in a way, been able to create their own form of transportation between the parking structure and CityWalk, right? Similar to what Disney has between their parking lots and their parks. Because not only does Universal pump more music into these sections when you're walking from the parking lot to CityWalk, that, again, hypes you up for your experience, sort of gets you in the mood and right mindset to enjoy the park. But there's also a number of signage. I mean, yeah, these are basically just ads that sort of show what's going to be featured in the park. But hey, it still works as sort of hyping you up for the park experience. And of course, you get great views of the park and CityWalk ahead as you're walking down these pathways. But the big kicker is that Universal, yes, it's a safety message, but Universal has a message that is so iconic, that is so synonymous, that it can't help but put a smile across your face every time you hear it.
The moving walkway exit is approaching. Please, watch your step.
It's a classic, and we talked about a lot today how Universal is trying to meet the standards that Disney has set in their sort of parking and transportation game, Universal having to do it all through the parking lot itself instead of being able to rely on other means to sort of introduce guests and set the mood. But this right here is why I really do believe that Universal's moving walkway is essentially Universal's monorail, because Disney has that same sort of iconic line that's all about safety for the monorail.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
It's simple things like these, folks, that seem innocuous, that seem pointless, that seem like they shouldn't add any sort of value to your experience. They shouldn't make your day better, but instead they actually do. And for Universal, they've proven that it's all the little things that add up to an improved experience. None of these things individually stand out as anything special, but you throw the whole enchilada together and you already have a smile on your face even before you've stepped foot in either of these theme parks or even stepped foot in CityWalk itself. You've already had your day brightened simply because of all the tiny things that Universal has done to not only make your parking experience easier and simpler than it has any business being, but also by adding these small touches that set you in the mood and prepare you for the day ahead. And the cherry on top of all of this is the fact that Universal actually takes fantastic care of their parking garage. They're constantly doing maintenance on it. They avoid having any sort of technical difficulties as much as possible. If a moving walkway goes down, they block it off and get to work on it right away. It's never going to be down for a long time where guests are just walking on it. And they've even gone ahead and added in digital signs that can be easily swapped out on a dime. Instead of having to go up there and physically put in a new sheet of paper to display up there, they could change these things out all the time for different holidays and events, and again, just add a little more of a special experience to this parking experience. But here's a fun fact for you folks. As great as this parking lot is, as much as I've praised it here today, you want to know something interesting? I never park here. Yeah, I know. I just spent 10 minutes just absolutely glazing this thing, boasting about how great it is, and I never use it. Why? I mean, that seems hypocritical, that seems silly, that seems downright outrageous. But the fact of the matter is, folks, there's one thing about this parking lot that makes me absolutely sick to my stomach, and that is the price of admission. Over $30 to park your car in this parking garage. As great as it is as far as parking lots and parking garages go, folks, it is not worth $30+ to park here. I hate to break it to you. I will always, without fail, take some other form of transportation to get here, whether it's by walking, by bus, by Uber, whatever it is, to avoid paying that fee because it's absolutely obscene. And it's funny because parking never used to be this way. For a long time, parking was a very, very tiny fee, if not straight up free at a lot of these theme parks, but now they've become paid for things that are not only paid for, but quite frankly, are obscenely expensive for what you're getting. And I mean, listen, folks, I'm not the only person who thinks this. I think pretty much everyone thinks deep down that these parking prices are outrageous. They are obscene. And I'm not saying like comparatively talking. I mean, heck, if we're talking about compared to the competitors, I mean, it's basically about the same price that Disney's going to charge you. And it's actually less than what a SeaWorld or a Six Flags will charge you, who's going to charge you like $40 to park your car. I mean, it's absurd. It's insanity what they charge you at some of these places to park. But why do they do it? How do they get away with it? It's because no one buys their tickets at the gate anymore. Everyone buys their tickets online in advance before they go. And then, by the time you already show up to the park, you've already paid hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for theme park tickets. And what are you going to do? You're going to be like, oh, they're asking me for $30, $40 to park. I'm going to turn my car around right now and not come back. Like, no, they know you're not going to do that. They know that you've already paid a substantial amount of money to be here. So guess what? You're going to suck it up and pay whatever parking is because you've already paid a substantial amount more than that to go to the park that day. So it's a sad reality. And I guess I give Universal and Disney a little bit more credit here because at least they're not raking you over the coals in the same way that SeaWorld or Six Flags are. But still, it's still a ripoff even at $30. It's just ridiculous. And if we're assuming that Epic Universe is going to open with pricing similar to that for their parking, hey, guess what? I ain't parking there either, especially not there because they're getting a flat parking lot with comparatively sort of more generic themes in Explorer, Monster, Viking, Gamer, and Hero. Like, okay, whatever. Like, that parking lot is not going to hold a candle to what Universal has managed to pull off with this parking garage already. Now, to be fair, it's not trying to do that because this is just a midterm solution for Epic Universe. Of course, the long-term plan is going to be to build their own parking garage structure there as well, but obviously right now you just have the Epic Universe theme park. There's not a second theme park. There's not a CityWalk. So there's no need to build a parking garage yet, but maybe in a decade or two, perhaps then Universal will invest in a parking garage here, and maybe then they'll have the same level of sort of theming and immersion and fun that this parking garage brings to the table. But for now, you won't catch me dead in that parking lot. Believe it. But let me tell you folks, I'm much more sad to not be parking in the existing Universal Orlando parking garage because, of course, it brings so much to the table. It really sets the stage. It really gets your mood going. It gets your blood pumping, and it gets you excited for the day ahead. And I have to say, for as much as I do avoid it, it always does feel like I'm missing something by not parking there. So this is not a rant coming from somebody who knows how great the parking garage is because they use it all the time. I know how great the parking garage is because I never use it and I miss it. I feel the impact of not parking there on every visit. As silly as it is to say, it really does make a difference. So really, this whole video is just a ploy for me to beg and plead Universal to lower the price of parking in this parking structure. I mean, honestly, you'd probably make more money on me throughout the year if you did lower the price because I would park here multiple times throughout the year instead of, never parking here. So, just a thought. I'm sure that it probably applies to a bunch of other people as well, especially for locals who want to go to CityWalk during the day but then have to pay $30 to park. Forget that. Make it cheaper, and I'm sure you would get more business at CityWalk, quite frankly, throughout the year. But no matter which way you slice it or dice this might have been one of the stupidest videos I've ever made. And if you want to watch another stupid video about one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, please click the video on your screen right now, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.